So I just had a fantastic idea. I think Disney should just remake the original Star Wars trilogy. Think about it for a moment. You know, they've been making all these new Star Wars films, and a lot of them really kind of hinge on you having seen the original trilogy. But those films are just so old and dated, the visuals just don't hold up anymore, and there's going to be a lot of kids that just aren't going to be interested in these old films because they look old. You know, they're going to want to see films that are slick and impressive and bombastic like the newer movies that they're seeing. So when they go back to see these old Star Wars films, they're going to be disappointed. So we need to remake the original Star Wars trilogy in a way to where it'll appeal to a younger audience and, you know, bring them back in. Now, if that sounds like sacrilege to you, that, like, that's just the worst fucking idea, if you feel, man, fuck those kids, they should learn to appreciate the classics. They should just watch the original goddamn trilogy, and fuck them if they think it looks old. If that's how you feel about this topic, then you now have an idea of how I feel about the idea of remaking Mobile Suit Gundam. And the reason I'm going off on this whole fucking tangent is because this has been a topic lately. This all started with the manga Mobile Suit Gundam: The Origin. It was a manga that was created by the original character designer from the TV series from back in 1979. He did a manga retelling the original story. He fleshed out a whole bunch of backstory stuff, and that backstory stuff, which has never had an anime adaptation, was being animated. In a series of really great OVAs that really kind of gives new context and meaning to things that we see in the original TV series. Things that we've heard about, but we've never got to see before. Now we're getting to see it for the first time. And that was all fine and dandy. But now, the creator of that manga, he's really hinting at the idea that he would like to do the rest of his manga. That he would like to see the rest of the story. Just the entire One Year War storyline, the original Mobile Suit Gundam storyline, retold based off of his manga. And there have been a lot of people who are really just, yeah, awesome, good, I want to see the original Mobile Suit Gundam retold in a new slicker animation, a slicker style, and, you know, maybe fix up some issues that the original story had. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And I'm just like, no, like, this is a classic. This is a piece of anime history, and they're literally wanting to make an installment that's just going to retell the original story and just be a replacement. And there's been a lot of people who are really gung-ho about this. They just want to see this be made. And they keep bringing up the issue of, like, well, you know, Mobile Suit Gundam looks really old. It's going to be off-putting to younger audiences, and it's hard to get people to watch the original Mobile Suit Gundam, and we keep making all these Mobile Suit Gundam, like all these installments of the Universal Century, and so many of these events tie back into the original Mobile Suit Gundam, so it would be nice to give people a newer, slicker iteration of this storyline, and to that I say, fuck those people, just watch the original classic. Like, Mobile Suit Gundam isn't just some random anime, it is a piece of legitimate anime history. It not only created the realistic robot genre, it completely redefined how anime was being written back then. If you go pre-1979, you don't see complex characters and emotional gray, or moral gray areas between our heroes and our villains, and you don't get those kind of complex storytellings back then. Mobile Suit Gundam was really like the first anime series to really kind of push that into the mainstream and really kind of ground it in a more realistic context. You know, there'd be series that tackled weightier issues every so often, but it was always done in this over-dramatized, melodramatic fashion, and it lacked the realism that Mobile Suit Gundam brought to anime and the influence it would have on stories afterwards. So it is a very important piece of history, and you're literally talking about making a new version of it just so people don't have to watch the old version. And it's not like there isn't already another version of Mobile Suit Gundam for people to watch. The original creator, Yoshiyuki Tomino, after he did the TV series run, he did the movie compilation trilogy, where he retold using mostly footage from the original TV series, recut, trimmed a lot of the fat, took out things that he didn't like, added in new things that he thought would improve the story, things that he couldn't do originally in his original run of the series due to either time constraints or budget constraints or just, just production issues in general. And he got to make a more definitive version of his story. And yes, it does use that same dated animation style, but even if people want to or just experience the original Mobile Suit Gundam storyline, and they didn't want to go through that original anime, there is the origin manga that people could read. They could read the manga. They could do that instead if they really don't want to watch that anime. But the idea of making a brand new anime to replace the old one just seems offensive in my mind. And for anyone who's heard me go off on about how Dragon Ball needs a reboot, Dragon Ball just needs to be rebooted, start over from scratch, and are now wondering, well, what's the difference here? Why can't, Gundam be rebooted? Well, we're not talking about a reboot, we're talking about a remake. We're talking about just doing the entire series exactly as it was before. When I say reboot Dragon Ball, I mean take the original ideas of Dragon Ball, the framework, some story elements, like the core feeling of that series, and craft new stories from it, start from the beginning, and create something original out of the old ideas. That's what I'm talking about when I say a reboot. And if that's what they want to do with Gundam the Origin, that would be fine. But I already know the manga just is just a kind of beat-for-beat retelling with some minor changes tossed in. And I think it'd be really shitty to just do that. And also, I think it's really disrespectful to Tomino's legacy. Like, this man, like, the original Mobile Suit Gundam, that's his baby. That franchise is his baby. He's come back to it multiple times. And, he doesn't have a whole lot of years left in him, but he still comes back every so often to just toss out something. Whether it's good or not, that's debatable. But, his original series was a goddamn classic. There's a reason it spawned this huge, massive fucking franchise that it did. And now we're just gonna have the fucking character designer come in with his fucking manga, and he's just gonna write over this man's legacy. And it's not even like Tomino hasn't even done like his own written version of Gundam either. He has a novel. Where the fuck is it? It's over here. There it is. Yeah, the original Mobile Suit Gundam novel. Like, he did a series of 3 goddamn light novels that readapted the story. He changed a shit ton of elements, and if they were to adapt something like this, that would be fine, because it wouldn't be taking the place of the original series. It wouldn't fit into the continuity. This would be something that would fit into continuity and just completely replace Mobile Suit Gundam. People who want to jump into Mobile Suit Gundam, who just want to jump into the Universal Century, they can now just watch this new slick version and just forget that the original ever existed, and then just jump into all the other Mobile Suit Gundam series that are out there. And yeah, no, like I said, I think it's offensive. I think it's, disrespectful to Tomino's legacy, the franchise that he fucking created. And yeah, I think it's just in poor taste. I mean, it's going to happen regardless. Whether it's, we don't know for a fact it's going to happen, but it's most likely going to happen because they keep bringing it up lately. And if it happens, I think it's going to be fucking, like, a terrible idea. Do I think it's going to be a terrible anime? No, I'm sure it's going to be fucking great. Because the Gundam the Origin has been pretty fucking great. So I'm pretty sure that this remake would be pretty goddamn great too. But I also think, like I said, it's erasing a piece of history, and honestly, it's wasting resources. Because instead of retelling the original Mobile Suit Gundam story, they could be telling new stories. People have been dying for an adaptation of Gundam Crossbone, which was a manga from the 90s. Yeah, for like, I believe the mid-90s. And, there was a poll taken about a year or so ago. What manga, out of all the manga in existence, would you like to see an anime adaptation of? Gundam Crossbone was number 1. Then, Sunrise did their own poll. Which Gundam story, light novel, video game, manga, anything, would you like to see adapted into anime? Gundam Crossbone, once again, was at the top of that list. So, both in just, in terms of Gundam and just in terms of manga, people want to see that adapted. But instead, we're talking about now just going back to the original, just readapting a fucking story that already exists, just so people won't have to watch the old version. And that's pretty fucking shitty.